We're here to equip and mobilize you in identity and evangelism. Enjoy the episode.
Make a statement of grace to people struggling with that, because there's so much shame associated with that. And as you said earlier in our conversation, we don't ever want to be comfortable with our sexual sin, but I do think we need to extend some grace, because especially in ministering to students, I just see so much shame over this topic and just thinking that I am the scum of the earth. I am the lowest of the low because I can't get out of this. And I just want to say to people who might be feeling that way, like, realistically, the fact that you're addicted to pornography is not really even your fault. Like, we live in such a hyper sexualized culture. That's why those numbers are so high, you know? But there is hope. There is hope to move out of that, you know, and maybe you guys have some thoughts on how we move out of that.
Sure. I think if you're, I think it's a good distinction of saying it's not necessarily your fault. There are tons of things that are forming you. But then to also follow up and say it is your responsibility.
Yes.
Right? And one of the biggest things that I'm helping the young adults going through the program that I'm mentoring is recognizing that, one, the devices that are in our pocket are kind of actively working against us. They're not neutral, right? I've done a case study with Emily to where I've been free from pornography for years, and I don't click through on things. I'm not watching different things, but every night at about 7 or 8 o'clock, if I were to go to my Explore page on Instagram, guess what it's trying to put before my eyes, right?
Yeah.
Women in bikinis, right? All these different images of women being objectified.
Yep.
And I mean, this is to a pastor who has been free from this, who, if you look at my history, you can
You follow nothing but philosophy
exactly.
and pastoral ministry.
I'm going, you need to know your audience, Instagram, but at the same time, it does know its audience.
Exactly.
It knows that I'm a guy who has desires, who wants those desires to be filled, and is trying to hit me. You take that and you expand that and you realize, man, every young guy, every young lady is having these things hit and inundate. And this is where you're saying it's not necessarily your fault.
Right.
Like the system is working against you.
Yeah. Since you were 5 or younger. Yeah.
But then taking responsibility and going, no, I choose to call evil for evil, right? To call purity for purity. I choose to get God's vision for my life. I take responsibility for that in my life. It doesn't mean I need to take on shame, but it does mean that I need to take action and start warring against the things that are warring against me. Start warring against and start valuing the identity that God's put in me and the purpose He's put in me, and having a high view for that and going, anything that's trying to challenge that, I'm going to challenge. I'm going to, even if you need to click through for a second, hit those 3 dots up at the top right and say, not interested. And you could start changing that. And I do that. And then 3 weeks later, it tries to hit me again. But taking those actions and just going, I'm going to start taking responsibility and realizing we're growing in a sense of maturity. That means I'm going to stand up and fight for what's pure, what's right, and what's holy for the sake of the vision that God set before me.
Yeah,
It's really good.
that's like so good. And I think as you do that, I think the thing that I've noticed with myself when I was battling with pornography and masturbation all through my teen and even young adult life, was I always made myself promises. I am done.
Yeah.
I am never doing this again, right?
Intervals.
That's a trap.
Yeah, completely.
Because, right, so what'll happen is, like, I can remember so many different seasons where I'm like, I'm done. I'm going to go tell someone. And I go tell a youth pastor. I tell my dad, right? And I say, I'm done. And then 6 months later, I'm back into it. And then because I've made that vow, I feel shame to even say I'm back in it. And so then I don't tell anyone. So then I'm actually in a worse place than I was before doing, looking at worse things, doing it more frequently because I'm like, I can't say it. I can't tell anyone because I told them I wasn't going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I say that to say, don't make promises.
Yeah.
Don't say you're never going to do it. Get the vision. And then you said it earlier, stumble forward.
With Christ.
With Christ, right? Like stumble forward in community, right?
Yes.
It's like tell the right people, but don't say I'm never going to do it again. say, I'm moving forward in my vision. And as you do that, Christ will actually start to renew your mind, and the scriptures will start to renew your mind. And then you'll look forward 2 years. And actually a lot of studies, like as far as like studies of the brain, it takes like 2 to 4 years to actually get free from an addiction like that. Sure. And so to have a short view of like, I'm going to conquer this in the next month is like probably not realistic,
setting yourself up for
right?
failure.
It's like, no, give yourself 2 years to like move forward in your purity and be consistent and bring people into community or bring people into your story that are trusted, but follow Christ and give yourself grace, like you're saying. And like, let's do that. 'Cause the goal isn't for us, right? The goal isn't for us to never watch porn. The goal is for us to be pure before Christ.
Right.
Completely.
And so like, that's the goal.
Right.
And as you do that, then that gets taken care of. And I strongly recommend all of the filters and different boundaries that you put on to avoid it. But at the same time, you gotta have the long view of it. And you gotta realize that it's going to take longer than 1 month to be free from a lifetime. Really, for a lot of people, it's like 10 years of addiction.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, and we could talk about it for probably another hour, but let's give some parting thoughts as we kind of close out the episode.
Yeah, parting thoughts on this topic of pornography. You know, my own journey, I struggled with that, you know, very heavily from the time I was in 7th grade and even into marriage and into ministry. And it absolutely was and has been a process of walking out of that. And just one really practical thing that I want to say about that was a game changer in that journey for me was realizing that the problem wasn't so much pornography and lust and need for sexual release. That's part of it, that you're wired in that way, and that's part of it. But it was coming to a realization that I actually was dealing with a low grade subsurface anxiety my whole life. And I had an anxiety and a stress that was constantly propelling me through my life. And that the best way that I had found since the time I was in 7th grade to meet that was pornography and masturbation. And so even when I knew that I didn't want that anymore, even when I hated pornography, I would still compulsively go to that because like I didn't realize it, but it was because that's all I knew how to deal with anxiety. And I didn't even realize that I had anxiety. Right. Like truthfully, like I knew all the outward signs of overt anxiety, but I didn't know how to recognize the deep-seated anxiety. And that really only went away through years of intimacy with the Lord, of allowing him to show me those things and heal them. And then honestly, counseling and talking to a counselor and walking through my past and my family of origin history and realizing those things that have gone on. And so I would just say to someone who's struggling with pornography, who's been in the fight for a long time, keep going, but to maybe porn isn't as much of your problem as you think as something else. So to seek out, what is it that you're actually trying to meet? What is the thing that you're actually trying to, I've used the word a few times, medicate through pornography? So yeah.
No, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. I would echo that in saying, if you could start, one, realizing that oftentimes pornography, masturbation, all these different things that we're discussing right now are habitually rhythmed into us, right? If you start to watch your rhythms of your day, chances are you're hitting probably the same point in the day, and you've built this literally into your operating system. Oh, it's like a notification that shows up every day. 6 o'clock hits, or 9 o'clock hits, I'm in my room, bink, here it is, here we are again. So understanding that, and then starting to build some other habitual rhythms into your life of even just the smallest little rhythm of just pausing and asking the Lord even better, what is it that I'm actually hungry for right now? What is it that I'm actually searching for? Am I medicating because I felt rejected today at work or something like that? The other thing is, I had another thing, But
Well, one thing I'll just say on that, there's actually a phenomenal application out there called Fortify that really helps people do that. It's a phenomenal application that presents you with healthy information about what pornography is and does, and helps you also track what you're feeling throughout the day, and you can begin to identify like patterns of behavior.
Nice.
And then you can start to say, oh, I'm always dealing with porn on Friday at this time. Like, what's going on?
What happens on Friday?
The day before that or the morning of that is making me feel so stressed and anxious that this is what I feel like I need to do. So that was an app that really helped me in my journey. So I recommend it, Fortify.
That is amazing.
That's so good.
The other thing that I was thinking of was, we were talking about stumbling towards the light with Christ, right? Stumbling forward with Christ, and understanding that Adam and Eve, in their shame, ran away from the Lord. And that tends to be our default mechanism as well. And understanding just as much as God is present in the marriage bed, he's also present, like God wasn't out of the room when you were doing whatever it was that you were doing, and recognizing that he didn't turn away from you. You don't need to turn away from him. Even if the moment afterwards you come to realizing, oh, there I did it again. Instead of operating in the shame and running away, turn and run towards the Father. That's the best thing that you could do. Turn and run towards Jesus, and even reflect then, Jesus, I did it again, not feeling the shame, but going, what brought me to that place? Why did I do that? And the more you do that, the more you will start to realize, wait, maybe I don't have to move forward on this thing. Maybe I could just run to Christ in the first place. But again, that's a 2 to 5 year journey of building these habits into our lives. So that's my other thing, is refuse to run away from the Father, run towards.
That's a great way to end.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. If you found this episode helpful or impactful at all, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel, and go ahead and share it to someone who you think it can impact as well. See you next week.